An organization, if you want to call it that, was created in 1979 called the United Liberation Front of Assam. The very name suggests for what nature this organization was created. In the 44 years since that time, thousands of people have died in Assam from the security forces, members of ULFA. For 3 decades, accords and ceasefires have been attempted. As we speak today, what you are seeing on your screens is a memorandum of settlement, a tripartite agreement between the Union of it, represented by the Home Minister, the state of Assam, represented by the Chief Minister, and Aravind Rajkhawa, one of the founders of ULFA, sitting on a table and signing this deal, which will not only mean that at least Aravind's faction of ULFA has committed to abjure violence, but they have committed in writing to disband the organization. Now, yes, you can argue that there are other factions. There is a case history of reneging on agreements in the past. But the Home Minister has probably not very lightly called this a golden day. Let's open up this conversation to understand the significance of what has just taken place. General A.K. Seva joining us on the broadcast, General Sudhakar ji is with us, Major Muhammad Ali Shah is with us, and Madhav Nalapat joining us on the broadcast as well. Professor Nalapat, quick thoughts on you. What is the significance of this? Because the ceasefire agreements, the peace accords, they have been tried, attempted, half done, half completed in the past. Has something significantly different happened this time, considering that Aravind Rajkhawa was there himself?
Rishabh, I'm sure the Major will agree with me that the ballot is a much better way of settling differences than the bullet. And we have seen that in Mizoram, we have seen that in other parts of the Northeast, including in Assam, where those who resorted to the bullet have finally come around to the ballot. And many have done very well. They've been elected to power, they've been elected to parliament, they've been elected to state assemblies, and very often they control the states in which they are elected because they have a majority. The majority of the voters support them. So I would say this is a very welcome step by Aravind Rajkhawa, who is, as you said, one of the founders of ULFA, a highly respected individual. And if I may say so, I'm not surprised that we are seeing this kind of issues in the Northeast for some time. For the simple reason that the Northeast is, first of all, it's got an immensely talented people. People from the Northeast are a tremendous, precious human resource. And they are, across India, across the world, they are showing, what they're capable of. An amazing human resource. Now, the point is the Northeast links India with ASEAN through Myanmar. And very definitely, there are two countries. I mean, one country, frankly, is the satellite of the other. So let's talk only about one country. One country that does not want any kind of linkage between India and ASEAN or India and anybody, frankly, for that matter. And this country has been, through its proxies, through its gangs, actively working to try and destabilize the Northeast. To some extent in the past, they've succeeded. But this kind of a step is a very welcome step because it defeats the purpose of that particular country in throwing the Northeast into chaos. And the point is the Northeast can become the most prosperous part of India. Why? Because it is linked to ASEAN. And that's a very precious link, both in terms of the rail and in terms of road and in terms of air connectivity. And eventually, I'm sure, in terms of people-to-people connectivity, it's a precious gift that the Northeast has got. Its basic proximity to ASEAN. And it's a gift that India can take tremendous advantage of. So I'm not surprised that efforts have been on for so many decades to create problems in the Northeast.
Yes.
And I'm really delighted that the Rajkova faction has come to the wise conclusion that the ballot is far more effective than the bullet
Okay.
in getting demands met.
But that's exactly then the conundrum in the issue, which then remains. And General Sivach, so overall, of the three main founders, Anup Chetia, we know, has been stuck in Bangladesh. Arvind Rajakova, you're seeing on your screens right now. And he signed the accord. So that's one faction closed. The third, of course, was Paresh Barua. So now, on the assumption, sir, that the Rajkova faction, one of the leading factions of the ULFA, now says not only will they give up the path of violence, which is, of course, good, but they will disband the organization. They are shutting down ULFA as they know it. Is that a big deal, sir?
Well, very correct, Rishabh. Extremely big deal. You know, the point today is that Assam plays a very pivotal role in case you want peace in Northeast, then Assam has to be peaceful. At the same time, it is also gateway to the Asian or Act East policy. Now, the point is that ULFA has got two groups now. One is of Arvind Rajkova, which was pro-talk, and another was of Paresh Barua, which is still not ready to talk, and he's talking about independence. And he is the one which is given a lot of weightage by the China. Earlier he was in China, possibly now he's in Myanmar.
Yes.
Now the point is, as far as Anup Chetia is concerned, he was extradited from Bangladesh in 2015. He was given back to us, and thereafter he joined the talks. He is one of those general secretary who was involved in this talk and played a very major role. Now, as far as these talks are concerned, they have gone in a very systematic fashion. It would have been extremely good in case Paresh Barua group would have also joined. Then this would have brought a very comprehensive peace. But all said and done, you can't ask for a moon. You have to start somewhere. And this talk has taken place almost 10 to 12 years. It started from 2011. It took so much time to mature it. But the positive role played in two ways. One was that the present government was very dynamic. They knew it, if in case they have to bring peace to the Northeast, the Assam has to be peaceful, and with that, they must sign accord with ULFA as well as the Bodo faction. Earlier, they signed, peace accord with the Bodos, which is basically in Kokrajhar, Bogaigaon and Darang district, where we have operated, and General Sudhakar ji was also with me when we were operating there in 96 to 99. But the question comes is there, ULFA also, which was becoming a big problem for the government, has now come overground. Okay. They are disbanded. My only one point. Now, another where the positive step is, we must thank government of Bangladesh. The Sheikh Hasina has played a very positive role, because what has happened is earlier they had a basis in Bhutan. The Bhutan has busted their bases in 2002 and 3. Then these shifted to Chittagong. But once Sheikh Hasina came in power again in 2009, thereafter she was cooperating with Indian government. She refused to give bases to ULFA in Chittagong, due to which they were pressurized to go to Myanmar and China. That has also made a difference. Okay. So the point today is that we must also be thankful to the government of Bangladesh and Sheikh Hasina government. They played a positive role in ensuring that this accord is signed.
Okay. General Sudhakar, what do you make of what has just happened?
Okay. Am I audible, Rishabh?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good evening, Rishabh. Thanks and compliments to NewsX for having raised a very relevant and important theme in today's time. This is the golden milestone in the history of India, I would say. And it has come just in time concept, the Japanese concept. It couldn't have been earlier, rather, I would say. And what does it mean? It means a huge lot of geopolitics. It means a huge lot of internal stability. It means a huge lot of messaging to our own people, that wherever there is ballot, like Professor Nalapet has alluded to, there is going to be a refrain from the bullets. So there are good about 50 odd insurgent groups in Northeast, and good number are violent and good number are looking for peace. But suffice to say, This particular group is the most violent form of group which General Sivaj has brought out. Yes, Paresh Barua ideally should have been in the group to talk and sign the agreement. Doesn't matter if he's not there. His group has got reduced in size from 4,600 to 240 odd people today. And when you compare between 2014 and 2020, the number of violent incidents have come down from 824 to just about 124, with civilian casualties coming down from more than 200 to 2 to 3 people. There is a significant, I would say, transition to the peace. There is a yearning for peace. There is a crave for peace in the Northeast. And particularly when you talk about this particular book, Rishabh, I think in your channel I have shown this book.
Yes.
We also do good if they can read this book, assimilate and internalize. Here is the author, a Swedish-born author who has carried out a great deal of research about Great Game East. It's not actually what we see in the naked eye. It's much more than what is visible to us. There is a huge game which has been unleashed by China, which will keep on troubling India, whether it is Assam or Manipur or any state there in the northeast and surrounding areas, particularly Bangladesh. We say Sheikh Hasina is our partner, yes, but Sheikh Hasina may not be there tomorrow. We should be prepared for it. How do you prepare India for the golden $30 million or $30 trillion economy? We need to improve and enhance our connectivity, which has happened significantly under the present dispensation. They have taken us back to pre-1965 connective connections all along the Bangladesh border, which is to actually be available till 1971 ops. So that connectivity is actually throwing open. Wherever China is trying to bottle us down, we have managed to open our lines of connectivity to the lines along the coastline of Bay of Bengal. One. Number two, the Act East policy of India, which is greatly, immensely challenged by the Great Game East. China is trying to stop us somewhere in Myanmar.
So that was going to be my obvious question, because no way could these organizations, and we've seen very disturbing scenes from Manipur. So at some point of time, the funding and the arms, I'm not saying that there aren't people who are genuinely disgruntled. But the problem begins is when elements that want a crisis in a particular area then come in, raise the hackles, provide the arms, ammunition and funding. And we know that the motivation, General Sudhakar, for the Chinese to create problems hasn't gone away. Our ability to prevent them from doing so has clearly improved. Now, what is the model here that applies elsewhere, where the Chinese are still up to the same old tricks? They're not going to stop trying. You have to be able to do better. Just like Pakistan isn't going to stop trying in Jammu and Kashmir, you'll have to be able to counter it better. What are we doing better?
Rishabh, if this question is meant
for
General
me, Sudhakar, for you, yes.
Yeah. I would respond to your question by saying that we have become closer and understood the aspiration of the people on the ground in more objective form, number one. Number two, the redressal mechanisms have been made more efficient. Number three, we have been able to meet the aspiration, if not entirely, to some degree, close to 50% or more than that. We have a long way. We have a long distance to cover, wherein the social economic development, the political affiliation or the affinity, the I would say infrastructure development, the basic entitlement of education and the livelihood should be taken into care, and the people must be brought onto the mainstream channel of the nation building, which is happening under the present dispensation. It is not only this, the Border Foundation group, which the BDSF, which also was up with arms against the national authority, has also surrendered. There are 4,290 militants of Northeast which have surrendered in past 4 to 5 years. Therefore, it brings me to the last point that the nation under the present leadership is doing a great yeoman service. The connectivity has to be given due importance. Employment opportunities have to be given importance. Yep. Those who have actually taken up arms against the national authority, they must be brought to the mainstream.
But General Sudhakar, that's the chicken and egg problem, right? At some point of time, it's a vicious circle which you have to break. The vicious circle is this. You have a place that has traditionally not been developed to the level it should have been developed. That causes concern, disgruntlement, anxiety, issues with the people. enters the enemy that wants to pump up the disgruntlement, anxiety, then fund it, then provide the arms and ammunition, then spark a situation that goes out of control. Then because the insurgency starts, all development effort stops, the roads can't be built, the DMs can't operate, the police can't operate, civic authority diminishes, and then you are stuck in that loop year after year after year until the decades roll on. This crisis started before I was born. Professor Nalapat, are we handling these things a bit better? Have we gotten a better grip in Jammu and Kashmir to break that vicious cycle? In Assam, are we heading in the right direction? Does this serve as a model for other places, including Manipur?
Well, you've seen Jammu and Kashmir, frankly, where the grip of the terror organizations is now considerably reduced. They do hit and run activities, but overall, the grip that they had has been almost completely eliminated. In the Northeast also, the point of the matter is that these are wonderful people. And I think as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned, as I recall, from the very beginning of his first term, he put a lot of emphasis on the Northeast and on improving the infrastructure in the Northeast. And you're quite correct. For decades and decades, the Northeast was completely neglected. Infrastructure improvement was not there. Projects were not there. Completely neglected. That situation has changed. And Rishabh, why is this important? Because frankly, many parts of Myanmar are basically the colony, not just of China, but the gangs of China. And we all know that the Tongs of China, they are basically controlled by certain groups involved with dirty tricks, if I may say so, security policy in China, doing dirty tricks against other countries. And unfortunately, these gangsters operate in Myanmar. And you've just seen some documentaries in which Indians were basically, tempted to cross the border. Then they were made hostage, and they were forced to send out spam mails to various people.
Yeah.
And their lives were ruined, and in many cases their lives were completely ended. This is the problem in Myanmar. I think we need to ensure that because of the good relations we have in Myanmar, even after the military took over, that we engage very intensively with the Myanmar military and tell the military to show some spine and self-respect and rid themselves of these CCP gangsters. I think the least the military of Myanmar can do for India, a country that has basically refused to ostracize them, is that. Bangladesh did it under Sheikh Hasina, and Bangladesh has prospered. Bangladesh's rate of growth is much higher than it was in the past. Myanmar also can prosper, and India can then be a bridge to ensure that countries that today are opposed to Myanmar become a little more tolerant. But the Myanmar military must show it has got a spine, it's got a backbone, and it is not a puppet of China and Chinese gangs.
Yeah, which is complex because, there are regions of Myanmar, right now in Indonesia, the Rohingya problem has become, there are regions of Myanmar which are not really in the control of anyone. And that's a difficult problem. So, General Sivach, but the fundamental question then in the end is the vicious cycle broken? Now that you are actually seeing the pace of development, Assam is no longer in the news for nasty reasons. I know there are still some border tensions that happen with the neighboring states, which should not happen. But these are now dying chapters. You're seeing a boom, economic boom happening, a tourism boom happening, that the vicious cycle is over, and this is a good example now to take away elsewhere.
Absolutely. I feel, Assam and Northeast have become the beacon of taking the lead for the rest of the country. Now, the improvement which has taken place in last 10 to 15 years is a matter of pride, especially in Northeast. And Assam is the first place where unified command has functioned the best. And the unified command was thereafter in the same fashion was then applied in Jammu and Kashmir. So there are a number of firsts as far as Assam and North is concerned. Now, very well said that connectivity is the key to the solution of Northeast. The more the connectivity, the more the infrastructure development. Remember in Arunachal Pradesh that there was no roads in 15, 20 years back, where we were in Tooting, Machuka, no roads were there. As on today, the roads are up till bang on the line of fracture control. Now, when the road comes, so come the development, so come the employment. Remember, this is what it has happened. And Assam is the key to the solution because it is connected with each state, whether it is Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, or Arunachal Pradesh. So, if the peace prevails in Assam, the peace will automatically come to other states also. And what we are talking is the problem between Assam and also Arunachal Pradesh, that also got resolved, border problem. So, today what is happening is, I feel, the way we are going for Act East policy of this government, it is credible. Kaladan multi-modal project, please understand that it is from Kolkata, it comes to Myanmar, and from Myanmar, then it comes to Mizoram, and from Mizoram, through the basically waterways, and then by the roadways, and then from the rest of the part of Northeast, and same way the international tri-light highway.
Yeah, it's tantalizing opening up the roadway projects, opening up the rail projects, opening up access to the sea to the Northeast through Bangladesh, through Myanmar, opening up access to Thailand and Southeast. It's tantalizing, but the fundamental question, and I leave the last thought with General Sudhakar. General Sudhakar, I mean, let's face it, the Americans fought a civil war with literally half the country pitted against the other half. Until very recently, the crisis in Northern Ireland was a very major crisis, in Scotland a major crisis for the United Kingdom. But there came a point when it diminished, when at least the violence stopped. Are you now hopeful that as we see the swath of developments from Kashmir to Assam and beyond, despite of what has happened in Manipur recently, that in our lifetimes, we are now going to see the next generation or the generation after who will now grow up in an India that does not have internecine problems going on in several places?
Rishabh, I can't compliment you enough. Bang on. And in fact, all the Indian citizens must understand and express in the same fervor and momentum, I would say. Actually, the signature of change had started in Myanmar. When I say the signature of change, the same military junta which was unleashing repressive regime against the pro-democratic forces have gone back foot because the pro-democratic outfits, they have got together. And what was prevailing prior to 2021, when the democratic forces were upswing, post 2021, when the military coup has come into power, these gangsters or the militant outfits, good 27 more of them have come together, and they have actually attacked the military establishments and the camps. The junta has taken a back foot. They don't know which side to look. It's a very healthy sign, one. Number two, there is the signs of development, the smell of development which is exuding across the border into Myanmar and Thailand. There is a bright spot which is shining in India. The whole world is talking about India. Also, Rishabh, if you allow me one sentence, because the program would be incomplete in my opinion, if viewers do not understand, we have a high-end objective. That high-end objective is in ASEAN. There are 10 plus 1. When I say plus 1, it is East Timor. These countries, today, India has got a trade deficit of close to $45 billion. We need to select this target, have FTA with the ASEAN nations, improve our trading with maritime or the ground connectivity trading, and improve our trade surplus or the status in favor of India sooner the better. If we delay it, China has penetrated in a significant manner. 55% of our trade is passing through South China Sea, mind you, through the Southeast Asian nations. 55% of India's trade. If that doesn't go through this passage, then we are.
So there are some bottom lines. Okay, there are bottom lines, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, in the growth of a nation, India was a fragile construction left by the British because they had raped and pillaged the country for 200 years. Nothing left. Hardly any educated people. We couldn't feed ourselves. Millions were dying in famine. Our country has, number one, survived. For all those who felt that India would collapse, it hasn't. So we are not going anywhere. The country is now thriving. The people who run these organizations know three things. Number one, that India is on the march to prosperity. If we stay out, we are the losers. Number two, if we take up arms against India, they will come for us. Number three, that for our foreign enemies who are the aiders and abettors, we are now wise to you. And number four, where once you were ignored or simply left out because there was nothing much to share, you are no longer ignored, you are front and center, and there is a lot to share and build. These are fundamental pivots that come in a journey of a nation that you're taking place. Maybe it's not just today, maybe it's going to be a build-up of events, but we need to translate it, and it is possible that in our lifetimes, in a country that has constantly been plagued on our borders with one issue to the other, okay, maybe, and that's when you can take on the border issue with China. That's when you can take on the larger issues of expanding trade, direct trade, not sea trade, overland trade into Southeast Asia. Important matters, which is why this is something so important that's been worth so much of your time and attention. I appreciate our guest joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.